Larnaca International Airport is an international airport located 4 kilometers southwest of Larnaca, Cyprus. Larnaca International Airport is Cyprus' main international gateway and the larger of the country's 2 commercial airports, the other being Paphos International Airport on the island's southwestern coast. Layout: the airport has 1 primary passenger terminal. Departures are accommodated on the upper level, while arrivals at the ground level. A second VIP terminal also exists, which is used for visiting heads of state, some private aviation, and for cargo. The airport utilizes a single large apron for all passenger aircraft. There are 16 jetways, connecting the main terminal with aircraft, while there is a provision for utilization of shuttle buses to convey passengers during hours of extreme traffic. Infrastructure also features a large engineering hangar, a cargo terminal, and separate facilities for fueling and provisioning light aircraft. There is a second, smaller apron where cargo aircraft and private aircraft are often parked. There are also spaces for smaller aircraft for flying schools and privately owned aircraft separate from the main 2 aprons. History: Larnaca Airport was hastily developed towards the end of 1974 after the invasion of Cyprus by Turkey on July 20 of the same year, which forced the closure of Nicosia International Airport. The site on which it was built had been previously used as an airfield in the 1930s and, subsequently, as a military installation by the British forces. Larnaca International opened on February 8, 1975, with only limited infrastructure facilities and a prefabricated set of buildings comprising separate halls for departures and arrivals. The first airlines to use the new airport were Cyprus Airways using Viscount 800s leased from British Midland and Olympic Airways using NAMC YS11s. Initially, the runway at Larnaca International was too short for jet aircraft. Nowadays, Larnaca Airport is used as a hub by passengers traveling between Europe and the Middle East, though between 1994 to 1996 a twice-weekly Gulf Air flight provided non-stop service to New York JFK Airport. The status of Cyprus as a major tourist destination means that air traffic has steadily risen to over 5 million passengers a year. This is double the capacity the airport was first designed for. For this reason, a tender was put out in 1998 to develop the airport further and increase its capacity. Already completed elements of the expansion include a new control tower, fire station, runway extension, and additional administrative offices. The surrounding road network was improved by upgrading the B4 road and by completing the A3 motorway. A new junction has been constructed near the new terminal. The new terminal was built some €700 west of the old terminal, adjacent to the new control tower, with new aprons and jetways. The old terminal building is slated to be partially demolished and refurbished as a cargo center, and is currently used as a private terminal for visiting heads of state, VIPs, and private aircraft operators. The concept architectural design of the passenger terminal was developed by French architects at Or Copyright reports to Paris with Sofra Copyright Avia in France. Detail and tender design was completed in Cyprus by 1998, with local architectural office Forum Architects and a large engineering team under the coordination of ADP. The design was later used as a base for the BOT projects of both Larnaca and Paphos International Airports, though significant changes were made mainly on value engineering grounds. A large amount of controversy spurred by the local media surrounded the granting of the contract when it was put out to tender. A consortium led by BAA and Jono and Parascovades Construction quickly pulled out when it did not receive assurances from the government of Cyprus that it would receive financial compensation in the event that direct flights were allowed between the northern Cyprus of the island and the rest of the world. The contract was eventually hastily granted to the next best bidder, the French-led Hermes Consortium. This too, was not free of controversy, causing legal challenges by BAA and J&P, and adding further delays to a much-needed project. New terminal, AA650M upgrade of the Larnaca and Paphos airports has been completed. The international tender was won by Hermes Airports, a French-led group. The consortium is made up of Bouygues Bâtiment International Aegis Projects, the Cyprus Trading Corporation, Iakovol Brothers, Hellenic Mining, Vancouver Airport Services, Ireland's Dublin Airport Authority, Cheryl Apostolides and Nice Cartier Airport. Hermes Airports built new passenger terminals and plans to extend the runways at both airports under a 25-year concession. A new terminal building opened on November 7, 2009. It has 16 jetways, 67 check-in counters, 8 self-check-in kiosks, 48 departure gates, 2,450 parking spots. The new terminal can handle 7.5 million passengers per year. The second phase, to be completed in 2013, provides for the expansion of the new terminal to handle 9 million passengers a year, and for a 500m runway extension. The design of the new 98,000 m2 terminal includes 16 boarding bridges. Airlines and destinations. Passenger cargo ground transport. The airport can be reached by car, taxi and public transport system. There is a shuttle bus system from to both Limassol and Nicosia. Local buses 417, 418, 419, 425 and 429 are available from bus stops outside the airport to various locations in Larnaca, where one may change bus routes to other destinations in the island. Incidents and accidents. On October 13, 1977, Lufthansa Flight 181, flying from Palma de Mallorca to Frankfurt, with 91 passengers and crew, was hijacked by 4 Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine members, and was diverted and landed in turn at the airports in Rome, Larnaca, Bahrain and Dubai. The Boeing 737 was then forced to fly onto Mogadishu Airport, Somalia, where a German anti-terrorist squad stormed the plane, killing 3 hijackers, arresting 1 and rescuing all passengers. On February 19, 1978, Larnaca Airport was the scene of the Egyptian raid on Larnaca International Airport, a 1-hour gun battle between Unit 777, an Egyptian military counter-terrorism force, who had raided Larnaca International, and the Cypriot National Guard. The crisis had begun the previous day, when Yusuf Sabai, editor of a prominent Egyptian newspaper and friend of Egyptian President Anwar el-Sadat, was assassinated at the Nicosia Hilton Hotel by 2 gunmen as he was preparing to address the Afro-Asian FIOP unregistered trademark Solidarity Organization conference being held at the hotel. The gunmen, a Jordanian and a Kuwaiti, opposed to the Sadat regime, took 50 hostages among the conference attendees, including 2 representatives of the PLO who happened to be attending the conference. Non-Arab delegates and women were released shortly. Yasser Arafat, with the Cypriot president's agreement, dispatched an unarmed force of 16 to assist with negotiations and any possible rescue operation. Through negotiations with the Cypriot government, the 2 attackers were allowed to board a plane to escape with their 15 remaining hostages, including the 2 PLO hostages. They forced the plane to approach several countries including Libya and Syria, but each time their request to land was refused, so after refueling in Djibouti, the plane was forced to return to Larnaca Airport. Egypt then dispatched its entire anti-terrorist squad aboard a C-130 Hercules to deal with the hijacking. However, they did so without the knowledge or consent of the Cypriot government. On landing in Larnaca, the commandos launched an all-out assault on the DC-8, even as Cypriot negotiators had secured the hostage-takers' surrender. Cypriot President Spyros Kyprianou and other senior officials observing the events on site were forced to retreat from the airport control tower after it was hit by bullets. Eventually the Egyptian commandos surrendered to the Cypriot forces. The 2 hijackers were persuaded by the British pilots to give up. The hostages exited the aircraft unharmed once the shooting was over. The Cypriots counted 8 wounded. 15 members of the 74-man Egyptian Unit 777 died. President Kyprianou offered reconciliation and apologies, but maintained that Cyprus could not have allowed the Egyptians to act. Egypt and Cyprus each withdrew their diplomatic missions, and frosty relations between the 2 countries persisted for some time. The 2 hijackers were condemned to death by a Cypriot court, but the sentence was commuted by Kyprianou and the hijackers released. On April 5, 1988, Kuwait Airways Flight 422, a Kuwait Airways Boeing 747, was hijacked, while en route from Thailand to Kuwait. After forcing the plane to fly to Iran, the hijackers forced the crew to fly the plane further west to Algeria, but the plane landed in Larnaca for refueling. 2 Kuwaiti hostages were executed by the hijackers and their bodies were thrown out on the airport's runway. The hijacking ended in Algeria on April 20, 1988. On August 14, 2005, Helios Airways Flight 522, a Helios Airways Boeing 737-300, flying from Larnaca to Prague via Athens, crashed into a mountain near Grammatico, about 40 kilometers from Athens. All 121 on board were killed. As a result of the 2006 Lebanon War, the Lebanese airline Middle East Airlines evacuated its fleet to Larnaca. Also as a result of the 2006 Lebanon War, a Canadian military aircraft carrying Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper and Canadian citizens fleeing the war, landed in Larnaca. Cyprus served as a safe haven for many nationals during the crisis. The Prime Minister was coming home from a visit to Afghanistan but landed in Larnaca to pick up Canadians who had been evacuated from Lebanon, and took them back to Canada. On August 28, 2007, 3 construction workers were injured when a complete 5 ma, 40 m concrete floor collapsed at the construction site for the new passenger terminal. References. External links, media related to Larnaca International Airport at Wikimedia Commons, official website, current weather for LCLK at NOAA NWS, accident history for LCA at Aviation Safety Network.